This is Fair Issues on the Mormon Faircast. This week's article is entitled, Joseph's Translation Shows Remarkable Consistency, by Michael R. Ash, read by Stephen Densley Jr. This and other articles by Michael Ash can be found at DeseretNews.com. This article was used by permission of the author and the Deseret News. After Martin Harris lost the first 116 pages of Book of Mormon translation, he was released from his duty as Joseph's scribe. For a time, Joseph's wife Emma took over the task. Later in life, Emma said that during episodes of dictation, she sat across from Joseph, with nothing between them, while Joseph received revelation as she wrote down the words. She specifically noted that Joseph did not have any manuscripts or books from which to read. The hat in which Joseph looked to see the seer stone would have been dark and only inches from his face, which means that he would not have been able to read any concealed scraps of notes inside the hat either. When interviewed by her son, Emma said, "My belief is that the Book of Mormon is of divine authenticity. I have not the slightest doubt of it. I am satisfied that no man could have dictated the writing of the manuscripts unless he was inspired. For when acting as his scribe, your father would dictate to me hour after hour, and when returning after meals or after interruptions, he could at once begin where he had left off, without either seeing the manuscript or having any portion of it read to him. It would have been improbable that a learned man could do this, and for one so ignorant and unlearned as he was, it was simply impossible." Due to the demands of everyday life and providing sustenance to making meals, little progress was made during Emma's tenure as scribe. A new scribe was needed. Eventually, Oliver Cowdery appeared on the scene, and the translation charged full speed ahead. When historians examine the timeline for the translation process, it becomes evident that the entire Book of Mormon, over 250,000 words and nearly 600 pages in the 1830 edition, was translated in a span of 65 to 75 days. That's an average of about 7 to 8 pages a day, or over 3,000 words a day. This means that 1 Nephi was likely translated in about 1 week, and King Benjamin's Discourse in about a day and a half. This is amazing even if we thought the book was a work of fiction. When we recognize the complexity, consistency, depth, and profundity that we find in the Book of Mormon, it can only be described as miraculous. Emma said that when Joseph first began translating, he could neither write nor dictate a coherent and well-worded letter, let alone a book like the Book of Mormon. Yet the profound teachings in this book have changed the lives of millions. As for complexity and depth, we stand in awe of how this relatively uneducated young man could produce a work that not only teaches eternal doctrinal principles, but also weaves many tales of war, politics, migrations, and geography. Not only are the records of these events consistent, but, as we will discuss in future issues, they often match what we now know about ancient societies in the Near East and early Americas. For now, let's look briefly at the consistency we find in this marvelous work. If Joseph was dictating fiction and never had past portions read back to him, how did he keep things straight and consistent for nearly 600 pages without forgetting at least some of the details? In Alma chapter 36, verse 22, for example, Alma compares the joy he felt during his conversion to Lehi's vision when Lehi saw God sitting upon his throne, surrounded with numberless concourses of angels in the attitude of singing and praising God. These 21 words in Alma 36 are quoted verbatim from Lehi's vision in 1 Nephi chapter 1, verse 8, 319 pages earlier in the first edition. How many listeners of this series could quote 21 words from my previous issue without looking? In 1 Nephi chapter 19, verses 11 through 12, Nephi recorded the prophecy of Zenos concerning the destruction that would come upon the wicked. Zenos listed 10 calamities, including lightning, fire, vapor of darkness, and more. These same 10 calamities are shown to have occurred preceding the visitation of Christ in 3 Nephi chapter 8, verses 6 through 23, 420 pages later in the original edition. Lastly, in Mosiah chapter 2, verse 13, King Benjamin listed 5 legal prohibitions: murder, plunder, theft, adultery, and any manner of wickedness. These same exact 5 prohibitions are found 7 other times in the Book of Mormon as part of Nephite formulaic law. If you like this podcast, you can help promote it by rating it in iTunes and by writing a review. Post a link on your blog and Facebook page and tell your friends about us. Questions or comments about this episode can be sent to podcast@fairlds.org or join the conversation at fairblog.org. Michael R. Ash is the author of the book Shaken Faith Syndrome, Strengthening One's Testimony in the Face of Criticism and Doubt, as well as the book Of Faith and Reason, 80 Evidences Supporting the Prophet Joseph Smith. Both books are available for purchase online through the Fair Bookstore. Music for this episode was provided courtesy of Lawrence Green. The opinions expressed in this podcast are not necessarily the views of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints or of Fair.